Alright, we're back. We are managing the early stages of the game. These two blazed cards are part of the original protection for the Evergreen. So we've managed to keep the incoming elementals at bay, thanks to a lot of squirrel cards. However, we're going to take it on the chin pretty soon. So we get to draw our 3 cards. Well, that is... I've never been so glad for a whale card in my life. However, this is hard. Not so easy. Well, you know what? It could be a lot worse. Could be a lot worse. Alright, because we have another desiccation and another stone rain card, we are going to be wiped out next turn. The problem is we don't have enough material to purchase any Sylvan cards outside of this freebie. But it is going to at least give us another chance to remove another card. See? So we will move 1 space. We will play the whale. And we will draw 1, 2, 3 spaces into combat. Standard combat rules apply, and it is defeated. So, with this single 4-strength card on the board, in our early cards, we'll have gotten rid of all of the protectors of the Evergreen. It's not going to mean much for us in the face of all this firepower that's coming up. And we can move this 1 space. We can move. One of the great things about the orthogonal movement, one of the powerful things, is it allows you to simply move out of the way of certain problems. So the beauty of the temporal tornado is that because we will have lost cards, the temporal tornado would normally take cards in your hand and put them back on top of the deck. Well, that's going to be moot. We'll lose these cards, but we'll also lose the effect of the temporal tornado. There are no objects to blaze, so we'll play out the turn of the Ravage. Alright, each of these causes a random card to be lost. Temporal Tornado cannot affect anything since there are no cards in our hand. There are no elementals to blaze. So here we are. Now we've got quite a few, well, not so terrible strength. Yeah, and we have 1 movement to make. Now, would we move here, or would we move here? Smart play of the Ravage is to move up here. Why is that? Because if we want to protect ourselves next turn, If we want to move away, then to protect ourselves further, then that 4 strength elemental will be able to move onto the board. I'm not sure I'm that worried about it all. I think pretty much I'm pretty happy with what we've done so far. Happy with the gameplay thus far. It's been hard. We've taken some hits. It's been 5 turns. We are not in any way near ready to put out a tree card out on the board, but we are about to remove the final threat from behind, and we're just going to be dealing with threats from the other side. So that simplifies our strategy from here on out. So the real question is, yep, it's our turn to move. The Ravage has moved. So we'll draw some cards. I drew a lot of squirrel cards. Extraordinary Feat card, which we didn't really. Ugh, that hurts. So, wow. Well, that is extraordinary, isn't it? So we got a little lucky. Keep that Extraordinary Feat card out on the table. I think there's a second one too. I think we have the hedgehogs. Well, this opens the board up considerably back up to us. So 1 and a 1 and a 0 and a 0. Well, no, we just survived long enough to get an elephant back into play. Take this off the board. That is fine. We're going to be in great shape. I'll show you why. Would like to have the squirrels out, but that other option to play the elephant was too good. So standard combat rules apply with we have a 2 strength. We have a 2 strength fountain going against a 1 strength elemental. We'll just bring them out as they would normally be put out to set up before their movement onto the battlefield. Now you see where we're going here. So these move unimpeded, but this engages in combat and loses. This engages in combat and is destroyed as well. So we'll draw 3 cards. And that's our second Extraordinary Feat card. I thought that was in there. Okay, fantastic. So we have a tree with a cost of 1. We can lay out on the board. So we're just going to get going. So in order to, normally I would, because your Extraordinary Feat cards are drawn in the first scenario, and then they're not renewable. That's one of the extra difficulty variants of this campaign, is that you have a set of Extraordinary Feat cards, and then that's all you have. You're not redrawing them through scenario. Why is that? Well, that's because they're slightly overpowered. We often don't need an Extraordinary Feat card to win a basic game, but sometimes we want to. Maybe we might want to. So you have to in the campaign, you have to manage. Well, do I really want to give this up now because I really want this for the third scenario? So, nope, we're going to play this out right now because it's too good. We're going to play the whale. Draw it in here. And that is a 1 against a 2, and that is defeated. And then we're going to purchase this card for here. We're going to move on to the space, engage in combat, defeat that 0 elemental. And so, yeah, we have a tree card out on the board. So why did I play this? Well, I don't know what's coming out on the board. If this is an elemental card, it will enter and it will destroy this tree. That's one of the things that you have to manage because of this, because of the entry you enter as well as your opponent enters from the same spot. You can either play a squirrel card, you can play a hedgehog card. This is all I got, so I'm going to play it. So we're going to, that is essentially a free turn for us. So we've got 2 cards left. We're going to have to demobilize. We'll demobilize, we'll shuffle. Alright, we have to take one off. I should say also, because I didn't describe it before, well that hurts. What is this deck? How did we arrive at this deck? Your Defender deck is exactly the identical deck at the end of scenario number 1, which is a standard game of Sylvion with the advanced version. So you're playing, well, not with half a deck, but with a depleted deck. And thematically that represents that you have only a certain amount of people that you can get behind enemy lines. And this deck, as it depletes, is all you have. You'd have no more reinforcements. So alright, so obviously we're going to play what we have. This is what we have. We'll move this Defender deck back up here. And our discard pile here. Ah, finally some allies. Interesting. Might get ahead of the game now. Now that we've covered our tracks and we've endured some pretty stiff opposition. But interestingly, that's one of the things I love about Acid Lakes. Acid Lakes enable, in the original game, they enable elemental movement. What they do here is they block your path to the Evergreen. Now, theoretically, if you don't get there soon enough, then your way to the Evergreen can be blocked, especially easy when you either get a 1 or a 4 edge card in your setup and you're stuck with a corner. 2 Acid Lake cards, and yes, I have been defeated that way. Fortunately for this, we're going to have a geyser here, so that won't really be as damaging as it might initially have been. Plus, we're going to have a geyser over here, so that's helpful. But we've got to be careful. Got to be careful. So do we care about the blazing? This helps a little bit because we know what's coming, and this blazing up to a 2, not that much to worry about. More to worry about is the Sylvion card, because Sylvion cards allow the elementals to get ahead of you, and if you have a cluster of them, they can get ahead of your defenses and then start. Like we said, we played our hedgehog turn so that we wouldn't get attacked. Wouldn't have been attacked at this point, but um, your defenses can still be breached with the Sylvion card, unless you have Sylvan cards on every single row of the battlefield. In which case you're still going to get roughed up by temporal tornadoes and stone rain cards. So we know that there's a Sylvion card. So I think we are definitely going to move our tree forward. It's definite. And since no enemies here, we'll move our. It's always good to have a blocking card in front of your tree. Particularly if it's a stone rain card, temporal tornado, there's not much you can do about it. But if something gets in the way, you still have a protection. You still have somebody to protect your tree. So we've moved all of our cards. So we're getting in toward the Evergreen. We've moved our 4 card in anticipation of 2 movements. So it can move 1, 2, 1, 2. So we'll be there. Alright, we'll play out this turn. Alright, play the Geyser, blaze the Elemental, and it can move, from it. Elemental doesn't want. This is a good example of the Elemental here doesn't want to move. So but the Sylvion card is not something that is open to. It has to move. And a good example is, say if this were out on the board and this were actually a new card coming out. To move this forward is to compromise the movement AI of the rule set that I've played out. So normally elementals cannot move willingly, and they certainly are not moving willingly this way, but you would not move an elemental toward an opponent that it cannot defeat. But when you move elementals into the battlefield, they must force the movement. If this elemental can move in order to allow this to enter, it must move. If for any reason that it can't, then if this is prevented, if this is filled, if this is filled and it cannot move, then this entering card will be discarded. That's rare, but it could happen. Alright, so that is the amped up blazed card. So the blazing. Just make sure that that's just the card. Yeah, that's right. And Sylvion card. So it has to move. It doesn't have a choice. It has to move up here or up there. By the rules of the elemental movement II, it must move toward the nearest enemy it can defeat. It can defeat this enemy even though it is moving in the path of a higher strength defender. And that takes care of that turn. Alright, let's keep going. Wow, we have a lot of squirrel cards. I don't have any problem with that. I have no problem with that at all. So we'll need some extra room. Bring that deck down here. Okay. So we want to play anything out on this board. So we're going to desiccate next time. We are going to lose a card. Let's do the movements that we obviously will do. So we are obviously going to move this card. This one space. Do we want to use the whale card to draw it? No, I don't think so. We will simply move this into its space, and we will defeat it. Not much we can do. We will play this card. But you know what? I think we will play it. We'll play it up here. So we know an enemy's coming there. We will play a squirrel card. We're going to lose that whale. Can't be helped. And we'll pause right here.